24 years ago, this very month, this winter month, then the sun shining and glittering on the water of the Blackwater Estuary behind us. 24 years ago, the wall here at Abbots Hall, the river wall, seawall, was breached and let the sea in onto rather kind of medium grade farmland, not producing much in the way of crops, and created a whole new marshland system of saltings out here, shifting the land, taking the energy out of the tide as it comes up the estuary, creating new habitat for fish, for oysters, creating new food for birds of all sorts, migrants as well as those that stay here across the year. We called this managed retreat, I think it's better just to call it nature recovery, that through one small shift, what we find was a rapid change over the years to a new habitat. So what I want to talk about here is how fast those changes can happen when we're on the S-curve, when we've got out of a period of linear thinking, when we're down, as it were, in the grass, in the weeds, and then when change begins to shift upwards and curve on. Once we get onto that rapid change, whole systems can shift really very quickly. But it's difficult to imagine those. So what evidence can we bring when it hasn't happened yet? Well, we can talk about the principles. We can talk about the idea, the abstract idea of this S-curve. We can draw upon other sectors and say, well, this happened over here with the shift from the horse to the car in the early 1900s, 20 years, and suddenly all the horses were gone in cities and they were replaced by cars. We can look at other shifts, the shift from the film camera to the digital camera, which companies thought was fantastic because 3 times as many were being sold, and then bang, another dramatic change. And the smartphone comes along with cameras in it, and that does it for the digital camera sector. These changes happen really quickly once they get past a certain sort of chasm in the low linear thinking, and upwards and away it goes. Some examples, well, 14 countries worldwide now have more than 95% of their electricity system being created by renewables. Countries that were often rather poor and unable to create the resources for people, to create the energy for people, are now distributed energy, mostly solar, some wind, some geothermal, some hydro. These systems are producing low cost energy for people in a way that was unimagined in the past. A couple of further examples. Pakistan, importing of solar panels along the Silk Road from China, cheap solar panels that are now cheaper than garden fences. Put up a solar panel rather than a fence. It's that cheap. And people began to install them in Pakistan. They realized they could put them on roofs, on the ground, on farmland, and use the solar energy, the battery energy, instead of paying for expensive diesel or fuel for their irrigation pumps, their drinking water, for their farm activities, for their businesses. In just 1 year, last year, the amount of diesel in the country consumed fell by 30%, saving the country money, saving the individual householders, farmers, businesses, saving them money as well. That's past a threshold. People are going for solar as fast as they possibly can. Balconies on flats. In Germany, this is where it happens first. Instead of the authorities saying you have to ask permission or register what you're doing centrally and it's going to take some time to happen, Germany realized they have an energy crisis. The invasion of Ukraine and the war has changed the energy sector across Europe, and Germany says, okay, fine, You can install plug-in solar if you live in a flat, or indeed anywhere, but if you live in a flat, you don't have a roof and you don't have land, you can install solar panels on your balcony and just plug them in and use the energy. In a year, 1.5 million people in Germany install plug-in solar on their balconies. And Poland says, what a bright idea. And so does Italy, and so does Spain. And people have installed solar and transformed their cost base at home and changed the way that energy is being used in their countries. A final example, electric vehicles. Okay, we know they're increasing in number, but in 2010 worldwide, there are just 3,000 electric vehicles worldwide. Last year, 20 million. This year expected to be something like 40 million. It looks like electric vehicles have gone from that linear period. I mean, if we just added 3,000 a year from 2010, we'd still be way down in the grass. We're not getting anywhere with it. But the doubling period looks to be about a year and a half. So we go from 20 million to 40 million, 40 to 80 to 160 to 320 to 640, 4 doubling periods, and we're at 640 million vehicles worldwide. There are only 1 billion in the world. So one more doubling period and everything's electric. That's how quickly it happens. It happens in a 6-year period on current sharp trends of the S-curve. If we get policy right, and policy can help, like the balcony plug-in solar in Germany and elsewhere, if policy can help this happen, it can go fast. Policy can also block, and some people get it and some don't. You would think it a joke, but it's not. In Wyoming, someone introduces into domestic legislature a bill entitled Make Carbon Dioxide Great Again. If you go to the Dakotas, North and South Dakota, 85% of the electricity generated in those two states now comes from renewables. The cost base has changed dramatically across both states. In Vermont, the use of renewables, mainly solar, has completely changed electricity generation across the whole of the state. And the state is saving $2 billion of expenditure a year that it was spending on fossil fuels. So if policy can help, it can go faster. And we can also look across other sectors and say, well, regenerative agriculture, rewilding, marine regeneration, habitat change, all of these are on the S-curve. Things are beginning to happen at a faster pace, and we can imagine whole landscapes being changed, whole food sectors being changed. So 3 things are happening. We're getting transformation on the S-curve when you're down in the long grass and you're projecting, guessing change based on linear thinking. That linear thinking is stopping us imagining how fast things can go. It's stopping policymakers realize that we can make these things happen in half-decade periods, not 50-year periods. It's completely changing. Second, ripple effects. You change one thing, the whole thing changes. Everything shifts. Low-cost energy changes the whole world. So living on the S-curve goes beyond linear thinking. It goes beyond the slow change into faster, accelerating change. And that's when whole systems shift from being extractive towards regenerative.